go.
Feel better,
Feel
my
better,
man.
Bull.
Thank you, Bull. You're a gamer. Feel better, and let us know how it's going later in the day. I'm trying to get Josina on. We've been texting the last 24 hours. She, ironically enough, today is in Carolina.
Wow.
She's at Panthers camp, and she said she's got a crammed schedule. If she's got any time, she's definitely going to make it for us, and she wants to come on. I'm not surprised that the NFLPA said that. I mean, all along, that was their stand. Yeah. They argued for 0 games.
Right.
So I know while on one hand it's a win because it's not a season, they wanted nothing, which I don't think was ever an option. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, if Josina can wiggle free, she's going to join us. Tim, your immediate reaction to the 6 games?
I think my immediate reaction was it's probably best case scenario for the Browns. You're talking about 6 games. We were all talking, maybe 6 to 8, maybe even an entire season. So I think 6 games, they got to feel like that's probably a win, especially considering, the schedule. I think, Jay, you mentioned it earlier. I think 3-3, 4-2 is very realistic with this team, even without Deshaun Watson. So if they can possibly do that, go 3-3, 4-2, and then put Deshaun Watson back into this lineup, I think that is, absolutely best case scenario. And I think Jacoby Brissett is capable of doing that with this schedule. I think they can get off to a good start. Obviously rely on the running game and play great defense and let Jacoby do his thing, make the plays when they're there, but certainly not ask him to do too much and just hold this thing down until Deshaun's able to come back and take this offense to another level.
Tim, this is interesting because right now Kevin Stefanski knows he has 12 quarters of preseason football to work with.
Right.
Deshaun Watson hasn't played football in 22 months.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett is going to be the captain of this offense for the next 6 weeks. How are you divvying up those quarters of precious preseason football? It would be nice to have 4 games this year. Obviously, they have 3. You've got 12 quarters. How many are you giving to Deshaun? How many are you giving to Jacoby? And who plays that last game?
Yeah, I think that, you give Jacoby most of the reps with the ones. I think you get Deshaun in there. And just, let him get some game reps, let him feel the speed of the game again, let him take a couple hits, because like you said, he hadn't played in over a year. So, I think I would probably lean more towards getting Jacoby ready because, these 6 games are extremely important and he's going to be your guy for those 6 games. So if I'm Jacoby, I want those reps. I feel like, Stefanski feel like that's who he needs to get ready within the system. So I think he's going to lean more towards getting Jacoby those reps and then, just bringing Deshaun in as he can and getting him as, getting a feel for the game and getting a feel for this system as well.
Now, Tim, you obviously being a quarterback, I think the suspension allows him to go through the preseason, but when the season starts, he needs to sit out and can't show up to the facility for the first 3 games. And then after those 3 games, he can come on back and be part of the team. As a quarterback, if you were Deshaun Watson, what would your schedule be, and how would you plan on staying ready to play and throwing and do? What would you do in those 3 weeks? And how would you get acclimated? Would you throw with receivers? What would that process be?
Yeah, if it were me, I would get with I'm sure he's got a private quarterback coach that he works with in the offseason. Most of these guys do nowadays. So I would probably go somewhere and get with my quarterback coach, make sure there were some quality receivers that I could throw to on a daily basis, and just try to stay as mentally and physically sharp as you can. I would be watching a lot of film. I would be in the playbook. I would be, almost preparing as if you're the backup, that you're going to be in at any time, and just so you're always prepared to play. I think those 3 weeks can go by really quickly. So you got to, stay ready, stay, like you're grinding, like you're getting ready to play a game. I think that's the way I would, probably treat it. But certainly I would have a coach around me, making sure that my fundamentals were, staying sharp, watching me throw, making sure, that I'm somebody pushing me, making sure I got good wide receivers out there to, that are, NFL speed, just, so you're used to the speed. So it's not a big adjustment when you come back. So just getting with the right people around you and just continuing to work hard and getting prepared like you're getting ready to play.
Okay, Tim, hang on with us because we've got more for you on the other side of DeQuell Jackson. DeQuell joins us now. I guess we only have 5 minutes. First of all, DeQuell, thanks for coming on. Obviously, you're in your vehicle, so I know you've got a lot of things going on. Your first reaction to the 6 games?
I thought it came as a surprise for me. I was one of those people that thought the NFL was going to have push their influence on this, and he was ultimately would get a year suspension. But clearly, the facts and what Sue Robertson came up with, she chose the right length of a suspension in 6 games. I think it's a now don't hear me out on this. I think it's a win for the front office and the Cleveland Browns. They decided to take a chance on a guy that obviously can still play the game, but obviously there was a lot of so I think this is the first step out of those guys that can take a little bit of weight off their shoulders, but it's still not over. But again, I think it's a win for the Browns. I do think as far as Deshaun Watson, he has to really think about what's next for him, really learn from this situation to avoid it, because next time there won't be a next time. Next time you shouldn't expect a next time. So this is it. This should be one of those things that never happen again, and hopefully he learns from it.
Let me ask you this, DeQuell. You said that you're surprised that the NFL didn't assert their influence a little more on the decision. That gets me to my next point, which is obviously the league still has 3 days to appeal this decision. And per the NFL bargaining agreement with the Players Association, if Roger wants to, he can be the sole arbiter, or he can appoint someone else. If you're surprised by this, then are you expecting the league to go through with that appeal process, or do you think they'll let this stand?
That's a great question. In this situation, I think they will let it stand. I think they've had enough of the back and forth, all the media outlets talking about it. Obviously, it's given a black eye, a stain to the shield, and that's first and foremost what Roger Goodell and the ownership, that's what they want to protect. So I don't think they would appeal it. However, this is what this collective bargaining agreement wanted. They wanted a third party to put their eyes on it, evaluate the facts of the matter. And listen, 6 games is lengthy, but we can still expect him to play this year. At what level, we don't know, because he hasn't played in forever. But again, in this case, if I'm the NFL, I don't want this thing to push out any further, because now we're talking about another year and a half of litigation and the courts back and forth and reliving these situations all over again. I think in this case, the NFL, if they're smart, I would just move on from this and just agree with the findings of Sue Robertson.
So this is to Tim and DeQuell. So as a person who's been in the union of the professional football, professional sports organization, the union, tell me, when you're paying your dues to the Players Association, do you feel like the Players Association is ready to go to the mat for a player? Because sometimes we pay those dues, they don't want to go to the mat. They're just doing the dance. Today was the day you're going to have to go to the mat. The NFL, in my position, guys, was in a position where they better take this and just run, because it's all bad from down here, because it can get ugly. Do you feel like the Players Association was really ready to go to the mat?
Yeah, I'll take it. I do think, the NFLPA and DeMaurice Smith, that this is why you pay those dues. This is why you have those guys in place, to be able to litigate and be able to make sense of all of this. Because as a player, honestly, we've talked about this before on the show. There's been no consistency in terms of a guy being involved in a situation, whether he was found guilty or innocent, or even if it applied to the ownership. So we all knew as players, at least when I played, in my opinion, there was a different set of rules for ownership as there were for players. But I do think in this case, the NFLPA did have a case on their hands of taking this to the max. And that's what you would hope. That's what every player would hope, if they're in a situation like this, that they have the proper representation. And I do have faith in DeMaurice Smith and the union of what they were willing to work up to if they didn't get the outcome they expected.
Tim?
Yeah, I would agree with DeQuell. I think in this situation, I think they went above and beyond for Deshaun, and that's exactly what you would hope for. You pay those dues and you want that type of representation. So I would completely agree with everything he said. Really not much to add to that. I think he was right on point, and they did a great job for Deshaun. And, if I was in that situation, or any other player was in that situation, that's exactly what you would hope the union and NFLPA would do for you as well.
All right, so for y'all being former players, me being with y'all in this category, we know how real them joint practices get. And I do believe the Browns have a joint practice this season. I can't remember who it's against. But if you're Kevin Stefanski how do you split those reps? Does Deshaun Watson get all of those practice reps because that will be considered a game for him? Or do you still continue to split those reps up with Jacoby Brissett, and then go to the game and split them up in the game as well?
Hey, Tim, I'll defer to you on this. You're the quarterback, man.
Okay, all right. I think you give Jacoby most of them, man. He's going to be your starter week 1, so you got to get a guy ready to play. You know exactly how many games you're expecting him to play, and he's got 6 weeks to go out and win football games for this team. So I think you lean more towards getting Jacoby game ready. With the fact you got to sprinkle some Deshaun in there as well to get him reps and keep him fresh and as well because like we said, he hasn't played all of last season, so he certainly needs reps as well. But I think the most pressing issue is getting Jacoby ready to go week 1 and making sure that you don't those 6 games that Deshaun's out, you have to win at least 3 of those to stay relevant and have an opportunity to go and try to make a playoff run. So I think you get Jacoby as ready to go as you can and get him feeling comfortable within the system and getting out there with those first team guys and being in the huddle with Chubb and Amari Cooper and all those guys that he's going to be out there with week 1 and getting him as comfortable as possible.
Absolutely. Hey, DeQuell, I know you have to go. Thank you very much for sticking in with us, and we'll see you on your regularly scheduled time later this week.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
Always
DeQuell.
good.
Appreciate it.
See you later on.
We're going to bring in Josina Anderson now, who I mentioned was she's at Panthers camp. We're in the process of getting her linked up right now. So as soon as she's up, that's going to happen. I think the joint practice this year is with the Eagles.
Yeah.
We called up the preseason schedule. Not that it matters, because in the preseason, you don't know who you're going to see. You don't know if the team that you're seeing is even going to play a lot of their starters. Last year, I think the league trend was to lay off on the starters. I mean, we saw Kevin Stefanski barely used his skills players. I'm wondering if that's going to change this year, because this preseason is unlike any they've had in recent years. And you could argue this is one of the most important preseasons for the Browns in decades, because you have to get one quarterback ready that is new to the system and will play for 6 games, and you have to get another quarterback ready that is new to the system and hasn't played football in nearly 2 years.
I think you have to. I think you have to utilize them, not just the quarterback position, but your receivers as well. We still don't understand what's going on.
You want them with the ones.
Yeah, you got to see what your receivers is going to do. We got all these guys that's missing time right now. They, as Brad would say, dropping like flies. We got to get some of these guys in there to see if they can make plays against these ones. So I think those joint practices hold a lot of weight.
Tim, when you look at the preseason, I mentioned that it is only 3 games. If you're either guy, if you're Jacoby or if you're Deshaun, are you lobbying with Stefanski for how much time you want, when you want to play, who gets that last game? Do they get the entire game? How are you approaching it with your coach?
I think there has to be an open line of communication between coach and player in this situation. I think Jacoby and Coach Stefanski have to really be on the same page. How do you feel right now? How do you feel within this offense? Are you feeling comfortable, getting the plays called in the huddle, going up to the line of scrimmage? If you have to audible, do you feel comfortable getting the team in and out of the right play? Do you feel comfortable, the line protection, sliding the line, getting yourself protected? How comfortable you are with the, this going on in game rep situation, that game speed? So there has to be that line of communication there with those guys. And if you're not comfortable, you need to say, hey, coach, I need more reps. I need to feel, more game speed reps. And let me get up to the line of scrimmage with the play clock running down and see if I can audible, get us in and out of the right play. Let me change the protection at the line of scrimmage. So you have to be real honest with your coach in that situation. If you feel like you need more time, then you definitely need to tell him.
All right, Tim, stick around again. We're going to bring in Josina Anderson now on the Gridiron Guys hotline. Josina, thanks so much for making time with us. I know that you're in Carolina today. You're going to be at Panthers camp later. First of all, I wanted to get your reaction to the news of 6 games, how that's being perceived by those that you've talked to around the league. And also, it's going to be a wild guess, but the likelihood that this gets appealed by the NFL.
So I would say first and foremost, obviously this is a long time coming. We've been waiting fairly a long while for Sue Robinson to give this decision. So finally D-Day is here, and we hear per her, review that she feels it should be 6 games. Now, a lot of people were trying to figure out, why this took so long when you think about the fact that the post-hearing briefs were, at least per the CBA language, only slated to be just 5 games. And the thing about why it also took long, I think, is 2 reasons. One, because she had to really pour over thousands, hundreds, or however many, just a lot of pages of evidence from both sides, and really consider that carefully. And the other part of this, I think a little bit more free to talk about it, though not too much in detail, is that there were intermittent talks behind the scenes relative to still trying to see if they could reach a settlement, even beyond what ESPN was reporting last night as far as some of the things that went back and forth. So I do think that that was part of it. I think last week when I reported that it was possible that you would get a hearing, I think that was the case because they were just kind of seeing how it was going to go, and the opportunity was still provided to come to that. Now, relative to my reaction, I think it is notable that it comes from a neutral arbitrator, and the neutral arbitrator is also a woman, and it also is notable from the fact that when you think about all of the thrust, in the public hemisphere relative to the emotions of this decision, she really did have the courage to be able to go way the other way without, much, refutation, so to speak, at least in the public hemisphere. So the fact that she was on the other side of the median relative to what, a season long would have been and what the average would have been in the middle of that, and the fact that she was on the other side of that, I think, is notable. What I am trying to hear is a couple of things. One, if the 6 games, when we have the opportunity to, hear more about the written ruling or read it ourselves, is to see if the 6 games signifies anything. And the reason why I say that is because if you go in the personal conduct policy and you look at the discipline section, there is a section that talks about having a baseline suspension of a minimum of 6 games if it involves certain types of conduct, including, sexual misconduct or what have you. So it'd be interesting to see, per her logic, if that's why she was in that realm, or if she just arrived there based on other logic. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Go ahead, G. Bush.
Well, Josina, when you look at the ruling, you just laid out eloquently that, she's looked at this. She's given it time. She is a woman. She is a former federal prosecutor. She's a former judge. Now, the thought process is, if she has taken the thought and time and been very judicious with coming up with this 6-game suspension and verdict, can the NFL afford to say, well, thank you for your time. That was nice, but we're deciding to take it into our own hands and go the opposite way and issue another verdict and maybe add some games on. Can they afford to do that in the public sphere?
So I think there's a difference between can and should. Can they do it? Yes. The NFL has proven that they can do whatever it wants, and a lot of times has done whatever it wants, especially when you're also looking at the discipline relative to the owners. Though we note, especially with me covering the Panthers today, that, the former owner of this team did, lose his ownership of the team. Though on the other side of that spectrum, you've had people like Robert Kraft, who did not receive any discipline after being charged for misdemeanor prosecution charges, which were dropped. So yes, it can. Now, the question is, should it? Now, you talk about that with the fact that this is Sue Robinson's first high-profile case and first case ever underneath this new process. And so by doing that, if the NFL chooses, would effectively and optically be undermining, Sue Robinson in the first case. And that is something that they also have to consider. But from my experience, I've covered the NFL 20 years now, and, from doing many of these cases from all, name a player, I've covered it. One thing I do know is that the NFL always licks the finger figuratively, puts it in the air, and they read the pulse of how things are being read. They do that. So I do think that they're going to take some little bit of time to kind of figure out after they have, the opportunity to read over it and determine what they're going to do. But they will take into account how the pulse of it, how it's being reacted to.
And to that point, and I know you have to go, so this will be the last question. I don't know that you've had the opportunity to talk to many folks in the league, associated with the league. And I'm talking about players, coaches, general managers, executives, anybody. The conversations that you've had here in the last 2 hours, since we've known that it's 6 games, Do you get a general sense on which way that wind vane is blowing? It was too harsh, it was too lenient, or it was just right? What's been the consensus?
So at least relative to just kind of reading the reaction, I haven't been, able to be on the phone with a whole bunch of people yet because I'm trying to cover Deshaun Watson and the Panthers at the same time right now. But what I can say is that I feel that whatever corners people were in before, they're still in, and that sentiment is represented over whatever this decision came in being 6 games. What I will add to that via my reporting over the last half an hour, and I just tweeted this out, that even though the 6 games fall short, far short rather, of the indefinite suspension minimum of a year that the league was seeking, that my understanding, or I'm told, that Deshaun Watson's side still remains very displeased with the 6 games ruling because they remain adamant that it should have been 0 games. So while the notification did come out from the NFLPA last night that the NFLPA and Deshaun Watson intend to abide by Sue Robinson's ruling, and I still do believe that to be the case right now, I still think it is judicious and prudent to wait for the decision from the NFL to see what it is going to do, because obviously it's 6 games now, but that's not necessarily where it might stay. So let's hear what that is and what they're advocating for or not, and then let's come back to that.
Yeah, and so basically we're still in a 72-hour holding pattern to see whether or not the league is going to appeal this decision. As you said, can they? Yes. Will they? Remains to be seen. But you're right. As far as the league having their ear to the fandom of the NFL, that's very much a real thing. They are listening to reaction. They're gauging reaction. Whether or not that influences their decision to appeal or not, we'll find out. Hey, listen.
We'll just
go ahead.
Quickly, just because, yes, we're waiting for the 3 days. They have up to 3 days to submit an appeal, and then even after that, we would know if they do that or not. But then, per the language of the CBA, there's supposed to be a response to that within 2 days. So this whole process of the portion that we're in theoretically could take up to 5 days.
All right, very good. Josina Anderson, I know you're crammed today. Thank you very much for making time for your old friend, and we will talk soon. And let us know how Panthers camp goes. We're all kind of looking at that from a distance.
I'm sure Baker Mayfield is waiting for me to ask. Yes, I am waiting for a huge eye roll and then followed by a coy smile. So I'll see, but I'll let you know on Twitter.
I will say this: no one asked those questions more tactfully than Josina Anderson. Josina, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
No question, one of the best in the business. She is always on top of these stories, and she's on top of this one as well. So, Tim, her point is, and it's what we were saying, is yes, the league can. Will they? Who knows? But she makes clear the fact that when these kinds of things happen, Roger Goodell and his brilliant communications team and his PR team, they are gauging everything, and they're trying to find out what the general consensus is to this reaction. In your history, in your experience, and just even as a fan watching these things in the past, how likely is it, do you think, that the commissioner uses all of this intel from how we're reacting collectively in weighing his final options and whether or not he'll appeal?
Yeah, I think Josina made a great point there. That's a very realistic thing, that they are going to see what the reaction is, from the NFL fan base, and especially, the women. They're trying to, raise the, they're trying to get more women on board watching the NFL. How do they react to this decision? So I think that's going to play a very big role in it. We've seen it happen in the past too, of just fan reaction to certain situations. We've seen it in a lot of different ways, and we've seen the NFL react to it. So they definitely have an eye on how people are reacting, and we'll see over the next couple of days how they go with this one. So,
Tim, looking at it, we're gonna put you on the spot here a little bit. Now that Deshaun Watson is out 6 games, it's a lot of people that was running around hiding from it. Are the Browns a playoff team, Tim? You got the 6 games, the schedule, Jacoby Brissett. When you look at this team top to bottom for 2022, do you think the Browns will make the playoffs?
I really do. I think this is a playoff caliber team. I think you look at the roster top to bottom, it's as talented as about any team in the league, on paper. Can they get through these first 6 games with Jacoby Brissett? I think so. I think that they can win 3. I'm totally on board with what Jay said earlier in the show. 3 wins, maybe even 4 with that schedule. I look at, what makes me so confident in that is the way we're able to run the football, obviously, with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, probably the best 1-2 punch in all of pro football, maybe the best offensive line in pro football. So the pressure is not going to be on Jacoby Brissett. There are so many other guys that can take that pressure off of him, so he can just go out, and he's proven he can go out and win games in this league. He's a serviceable guy. He can throw the football. He can make good decisions. He's a good football player, so they can win games with Jacoby Brissett. They're just going to have to rely heavily on this run game. They're going to have to rely heavily on that defense and Myles Garrett and that crew to get after guys and shut people down. But I think this is a playoff team, especially when Deshaun Watson comes back. If he is the Deshaun Watson that we've seen his whole career, then absolutely this team is a playoff caliber team, and Deshaun can really elevate them and take them to a whole other level.
So Tim, and as I listen to you speak, in sports sometimes when we look at the schedule, we try to break the schedule down and see which games are winnable and which ones are not. So I heard you say that earlier. So let's go through the first 6 games. If you say we got to win 3 games to be in the hunt, give me the 3 that we should.
Anthony, can you put the schedule back up so we can see it?
That we should circle to win, right? And if we lose one of those, that means we got to go get one of the other 6.
That's right. So I think week 1 they beat Carolina. I think Carolina's they're going to get after. If it's Baker Mayfield, the Browns are going to be extra motivated in that game, especially to get after him and create some turnovers. I think they win that one. The Jets, I definitely think we all saw the Jets last year. I think the Jets is a winnable game. Pittsburgh, that game that's a home game. Pittsburgh's going to be breaking in a new quarterback, so I mean you've got to think at home. That's an opportunity to win that game. Atlanta, Atlanta's a winnable game as well. No Matt Ryan. That's an opportunity that's on the road, but that's another opportunity there. I think the toughest game out of that stretch obviously will be Pittsburgh at home, a rivalry game. It's always going to be tough. Then the Chargers, I don't think they win that game without Deshaun Watson. LA's a heck of a football team. I don't think they can win that one. New England is obviously always good. A playoff team a year ago, so that would probably one I would say could go either way. If I had to pick right now, I would say that I would probably lean towards New England on that game without Deshaun Watson. So, but the other games that I mentioned, I think are, that's 3 or 4 wins right there that I think they can certainly go out and get.
So you're looking at, Tim, the first, the 3 wins come in the first 4 games, if I hear you correctly.
Yeah,
right.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. So, and then that means for Stefanski on the other side, if we drop one of those games, you got to go get a game. Right?
You gotta go get one. You gotta
go get someone somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
We as fans, we should be looking to say, come out of this at least 3-3.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's
4-2 would be great, but 3-3 is the baseline.
I think 3-3 is very manageable. You give a Deshaun Watson a 500 football team when he comes back and say, go out and win games for us now, get us to the playoffs. You give yourself an opportunity. You don't want to give Deshaun Watson a football team that's 1-5 or something like that. That's an impossible situation for anyone. So, I think if they can go 3-3, or especially, yeah, exactly.
Don't even put that in the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Deshaun Watson. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm saying, if I come back to this team and we're 3-3, especially if we're 4-2, it's go time, man. I feel extremely confident that I can take this team to the playoffs and to pick up where Jacoby left off and take this offense to a whole other level from what they were doing.
We talked about this so much, but that first game, Carolina, we know that Baker's going to come out and he's going to have smoke coming out of his ears.
Absolutely.
We always talk about players and guys meeting the moment. This is the moment. I mean, I don't think there could be a bigger game 1 unless it was maybe against Pittsburgh. Like, all eggs in on this basket. You have to, and because it's the launching pad of the season, if you do somehow lose that game, then you're in a train wreck of a situation.
It'll be deflated if they lose.
Now you got to go 4-1 with 3 really good teams in that 5-game stretch. That first game is going to be as big a season opener as I can remember.
Well, that's a smoke game, right? And so, in the words of Ja Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies, we want the smoke. We running up the chimney looking for the smoke.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, if you gotta even have a pulse to be in that game, and you're not there, something is wrong. You're gonna know from day one something is wrong.
Yeah. Tim, you don't need a fire-up speech for this one, do you?
No, absolutely not. I think Baker will probably say enough during the week that he's going to get fired up himself. We all know Baker. He's going to say something that pisses off the Browns defense. So Myles Garrett and those guys are going to be ready. Baker is going to be ready. I can't wait to watch it. I've been looking forward to an opening game like this in a long time. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and super excited about it.
Yeah, as they say, get your popcorn ready. And Baker's going to Baker.
Ready, that's right.
He will give the Browns bulletin board material.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just who he is. That's what motivates him. And we'll see whether or not he can carry that fiery streak
Tim,
into Carolina.
Let me give him some hand sanitizer, because that game going to be dirty.
Yeah, it is going to be dirty.
Real dirty.
It is.
No doubt, man.
Yeah, I'm
That's
ready.
a Purell game.
That Purell game, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Tim, thanks so much. Before we let you go, we've all heard about the terrible disaster in southeast Kentucky, which, of course, is your home. I know you live in Lexington now, but you were born and raised in Leslie County. The death toll is approaching 30. I know that hits in the heart of where you were. Is your family okay? What can you tell us about how your hometown was hit?
Well, it's been absolutely devastating, Jay, and I really appreciate you asking about it and bringing some awareness and hoping that people, if you have an opportunity, if you feel like you can, to help give and donate goods and things like that. There's all kinds of websites. You can go to arh.org and donate, places like that. So we've been really helping out as much as we can. I was able to went to a fundraiser on Saturday for Coach Stoops here for a UK event, and we had a little thing on the side to raise money for that. We were able to raise $25,000 to send to them. And help out as much as we can. I've taken supplies, water, towels, cleaning supplies, canned goods, everything we can.
So you've been to the area then?
I haven't been to the area. I've taken it to the drop-off location here in Lexington, where the vans ship it down. But my family is everyone is doing okay. I had one cousin that pretty much lost his house. The water was almost over his roof. Wow. So it was just absolutely devastating. But it's unbelievable what's happened there, man. And it's it's going to be a very tough rebuild for that area of Kentucky. So we're all trying to do as much as we possibly can. And I appreciate you asking about it, Jay.
Absolutely, Tim. And I started my career there, spent 3 years there. First met Tim there, covering him as an 8th grader playing varsity sports. The people of that area are absolutely salt of the earth, some of the best people I've ever known. We're praying for you. We're thinking about you. And to Tim's point, arh.com, if you can help with supplies, with money, I have a lot of friends that are still in the area that are doing everything they can to help the cleanup. It is terrible, and we're thinking about the area. Tim, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great week.
Tim.